Great. So you're in the right places if you want to hear about the Global Entrepreneurship Course, our virtual masterclass from Silicon Valley, which we started in 2020, and we are now getting ready for the 5th cohort. So it's been exciting to watch this class evolve and grow. Just want to mention that this is meant to be an interactive session. So we will take questions through the chat and stop in the middle of a slide if it's relevant to answer your questions. But this is really to impart information to you of what you need to hear, as well as what we want to tell you. So please be sure to stop me. I have to pause for another cough. Okay. Also want to introduce Inder Takar, who is our program coordinator. You may have received emails from Inder, so he's a great point of communication for us. So also, I'm just really pleased to see that many people are coming to this from word of mouth, and that's always a good thing, that you're hearing from a colleague or a friend or whatever about the class, and that's the best way to hear. So I'll start with explaining who I am, and then we'll go into the class. If you look to the left, that might have been me when I was a little girl. I was always entrepreneurial. Here in the United States, it's very common to set up a lemonade stand and sell lemonade to your neighbors who go by. And so this is not me and my lemonade stand. Mine wasn't quite this nice, but I certainly sold a lot of lemonade in my childhood. And I guess that could have told me that I was going to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know at the time. Fast forward to many years, and I ended up, after spending 10 years in the tech world, which I never found all that interesting, I discovered biotechnology, and pretty early in its history. And in fact, I worked on this book with a New York Times author named Barry Worth, called The Billion-Dollar Molecule. And the reason I worked on it was I had just joined a company called Vertex Pharmaceuticals, which some of you may have heard, which now is in fact a multi-billion-dollar company, but then was a startup. And the CEO, Josh Boger, always said this was going to be the creation of $1 million molecule. And that was sort of laughable because we were 90 people in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and not very nice offices. But I guess we bought into that vision, and a lot of us stayed. And then another aspect of what I do is, actually, that was my first job in life sciences and biotech, which I found I loved. And then I started to speak internationally about Silicon Valley, about being an entrepreneur, about life science, entrepreneurship, something I have a great passion for. That actually, I think that's from a talk I gave in Morocco a few years ago. But some other things I've done is I'm a startup and early stage entrepreneurship expert. I've had a career in the private sector before I joined UCSF, and my fields are business development, strategy, and management primarily, although I've done general management and been CEO of a struggling biotech company. I muck around in entrepreneurship policy from time to time, trying to have impact at a national level. And we created us, and I know most of you probably don't know what I-Corps is, and I'll explain a little bit later on, but I was responsible for creating the model for the National Institutes of Health, along with an expert, Steve Blank. We just had a Nature paper published on entrepreneurship, which is kind of an oxymoron because Nature, as I'm sure you know, is a scientific journal, one of the very top in the world. But luckily, they were interested in entrepreneurship, and just this January, they published my paper. I present for the State Department on occasion. I've been to the White House presenting, and I speak globally. So I come at this class with many different perspectives and a great passion for helping people realize their entrepreneurial interests if they have them. Alumni who are going to be speaking tonight, and I wanted to introduce them now. They'll be speaking a little bit later in the program. Sashi Kisana, I always butcher Sashi, I'm sorry. Kesavapani. And Sashi, can you wave your hand or put your hand up or something so people can see you? Sashi was the director of SG Innovate, which is a Singaporean government-backed organization that fosters deep tech entrepreneurship. And he was in our cohort 4, I believe. And he's now taken a faculty job at Marquette University in Wisconsin and has stayed involved with our program here and is in fact responsible for having brought many of the Singaporeans in on this journey today. So Sashi, thanks for being here, and we'll catch up with you in a little bit. And then Juan Pablo Robles. Juan Pablo, if you could also wave. I can't get on the right screen to make sure everybody's waving. Let's see. But there you can see a picture of him. So Juan Pablo has now founded a company called Vion Therapeutics, a therapeutics company, we hope. He is a postdoc at a well-known university in Mexico, UNAM, and was completely outside our ecosystem until he took this class. And so he's going to relate a bit of what this class did for him and what he thinks it's very useful for. So we'll come back to our alumni in a little bit, but thank you both for being here tonight. And let me start by telling you what we think our value proposition is. And that's a business term that you may not be familiar with, but I think you can figure out what it means. Is what's the value we are delivering? And I worked on this for a while and got feedback from some of our alumni, and they really helped me understand what this was for them, because I had written an entrepreneurship class and they corrected me and said, no, this is more than a class. This is really a community. And so I changed that word and was very happy to hear people felt that way, because that's what I've tried to create. So it's a community where professionals learn about the science and medical startup business from Silicon Valley practitioners. And as you know, Silicon Valley is the world's leading ecosystem for entrepreneurship. And we draw our guest lecturers from that ecosystem. They're all people who are actually working, not academics, not lecturers, but they will guest lecture. They have jobs in the business of startups in life sciences and healthcare. So that's the value that we deliver. And we're different. So there are many entrepreneurship classes around. This one has a life sciences healthcare startup focus. So that's different. This is not general entrepreneurship. We are in a different industry, a different business. We have different dynamics. We are not consumer products, and we are not tech. We're not climate. We are life sciences and healthcare, and that has distinctions that are important for you to learn as you go through planning a startup. We talked about having Silicon Valley practitioners who guest lecture. So these are all meant to be practical classes where you learn information that you can actually walk out the video screen and use as you think about doing a startup or already engaged in a startup. So they're really experts, but they're expert because they've done it before or they're doing it now. This is also a very high-touch class, and you've probably been in other video classes. It's different, that we make a point of making this very interactive so that you can ask questions during the lecture. That you don't have to wait till the end, and we'll stop the lecture and get your questions answered. We also have small groups that meet. So while lectures might have 50 people in them, a small group might have 15 people in them. And so there's an opportunity for you to get to know your colleagues and also to interact with mentors who are running the small groups. And then I hold office hours, and it's really a pleasure to learn who you are and what you're working on and how we can be helpful. And that's one of the things I most enjoy about the class. Another point is that we are Silicon Valley, and we have a different mindset and culture here. So you can learn the content, many places, but it's different in Silicon Valley. We move fast. We are more transparent. We take risks. We have a very strong network of people we go to, and there are many other aspects that make us different. And by taking this class, you will both hear it and feel it from the people who come talk to you and how we interact. So that's a huge benefit that you can't really put down in a bullet point, although I just did, but it's a very important aspect of what you take away. And then we have an active global alumni network, and I'll be saying more about that in a little while. So why enroll? 3 reasons: content, culture, and network. First of all, content. Find out if your idea can be a business. Not every great scientific or technical idea should be a business or could be a business. And we'll teach you how to find out if your idea has that possibility. For many of you who come from science and medicine, the whole concept of business is foreign. You don't understand the language that we use. You don't understand some of what we consider basic concepts, just as you couldn't put me into a lab and tell me to go pipette something. I would have no idea what to do. So from this class, you will absorb the concepts and the language and be able to speak in a business language. You'll also learn how to get investment, and it's not easy. I think if you're not from the US, you think, if I just come here, the money is available and I'm going to go back to Singapore or China or wherever and just have plenty to get my company started. But it turns out it's extremely difficult to get investment. And we're going to have real investors come and talk to you about what their criteria are to invest in a startup. You'll absorb the Silicon Valley startup culture just by being in the class and having a chance to interact with other people from the area. And then you'll also automatically join this really wonderful network that's global. And it's very exciting to see how it's evolving over the last 4 cohorts. So who takes this class? Lots of different kinds of people. The entrepreneurs, of course, people who are thinking about being entrepreneurs. And I've had people say to me, gee, I wish I took this course before I jumped into a startup. And there are other people who say, well, I don't know if I should do a startup. How do I figure that out? And this is a way you can figure it out. And we have a lot of academics in the class who are interested in doing something themselves, or maybe have a postdoc take over for them. We have scientific researchers who are in industry and academia, physicians in practice and in academia, ecosystem managers like tech transfer and just something like SG Innovate, which is an organization to encourage deep tech, and many other nodes that contribute to an entrepreneurial ecosystem. Tech transfer heads, corporate managers, some of whom just want to know how innovation happens, some of whom want to leave a big corporation and do a startup, some of whom want to bring it back to their teams. Pharma executives, we've had startup advisors and consultants, government people, and investors. So really, it's just about anybody who has an interest in entrepreneurship would fit very well in this class. All right, so before I jump into the actual content, let me just pause here and see if there are any questions in the chat or hands raised or whatever. And Inder, I need your help here.
Yep. Yeah, nothing in the chat at the moment.
Okay. Any hands raised?
Not that I see.
All right. We will keep going for a few minutes and then I'll stop again. And I really want you to ask your questions, the best way to learn. All right, so we start off with sort of the basic question. How do you know if your idea is a business? And we have a great practitioner to help you with that question. Dave Hansel is a serial entrepreneur. He's also an investor. He's done every possible kind of company. He's done therapeutics and diagnostics, and I think he's done devices and some digital health. He has very broad experience, and he's going to help you understand what the process is for figuring out if your idea is a business. And you may be surprised by what you learn. It's not necessarily obvious. So very important, because if you get this wrong, you get the rest of it wrong, and you don't want to waste your time. And Dave is both knowledgeable and entertaining. We have a special guest lecturer, Steve Blank. I don't know, how many of you have heard of Steve Blank before? Hand raised? I can't, do we have a good number in the audience?
We have a few, yes.
A few, okay. Anyway, Steve Blank is quite well known. He started something called Lean Launchpad, which is the idea that you start with something very, very small and figure out if it's going to work, and then why it's going to work, and then you can expand from there. And out of that came a US government program called I-Corps, which was started in the National Science Foundation. And Steve is a wonderful speaker, and he's all over the internet. So he speaks about customer discovery, which is the way that you can find out if your opportunity can be a business. And then I will do business models. A business model is how you're going to make money. So we're into the for-profit world, and if you can't make money, you are not going to succeed in that world. So come find out what the different possibilities are. There's more than one business model. And some of it will seem obvious, like, well, we could sell directly to consumers, or we could sell to businesses, or we could sell to something in between, distributors. But some of it's not so easy to figure out, and this lecture will help you. Team building. Teresa Toller has done recruiting, not just for the company she's with right now, but for venture capitalists. She knows what they're looking for as they set up portfolio companies, and she's got many years of experience doing this. I love her tagline on LinkedIn, I help build companies. That truly is what she does. And it's all about the team. If you listen to investors speak about what they look for the science and technology, and then they say the team. So if you don't have a good team, you're not going to be able to make it. And Teresa will teach you what you need to have in a team to be attractive for investment, and also to be successful in your venture. Vern Norville is one of the top intellectual property attorneys in Silicon Valley. He's with a well-known firm called Wilson Sonsini, and he's very kind and giving with his time to explain this extremely complex field. But in our life sciences healthcare world, if you don't have intellectual property, you have nothing. And so again, this is an absolutely essential topic that you need to understand, and understand the different types of intellectual property that are which are the most valuable for investors. Of course, you can't have a life sciences healthcare business without the FDA saying it's okay. And we have two former FDA reviewers who now work in industry, Telba and Ilan, and they are going to share their experiences as FDA reviewers to help us understand what you need to have to be acceptable to FDA, and how it all works, and what the different categories are. So looking forward to hearing what they have to say. Then, of course, our healthcare system here is incredibly complex, and no one in their right mind would have ever designed a system this way. So you only have to realize that it's a government thing, and it is just really something that you need to understand, because you will have to sell into this system. And if you don't know what this system needs and how it works, you're not going to have any chance of selling into it. So insurance, our insurers are the source of much of the funding for our business. And Eyal Gurian is the vice president at Elevance Health, which used to be called Anthem, maybe a name you recognize more than Elevance. And he is really great at explaining how the whole system works. And then what he, as somebody involved in innovation in this very large insurer, what he looks for and what it takes to get in to put your idea in front of him. Again, it's not easy. Partnering. So if you're interested in doing a therapeutic, you can't really survive without partnering with pharmaceutical companies. And Leslie Stolz is a VP of Early Innovation Partnering at Johnson & Johnson Innovation. She has been around this world in a number of different companies. She is one of the top business development people here in Silicon Valley, and she will explain to you how it works and how do you actually get into a pharmaceutical company to let them know about the opportunity you represent and find out whether they're interested. So she will handle the therapeutics, diagnostics sort of side. Beth Rogozinski comes from the digital health world. And while her current company, Acoustics, is not digital health, she was very early in Pear Therapeutics, which was the first digital health therapeutic. And so she really understands how that world works. And they each have a piece of this lecture, so can help you understand the full landscape. Okay, now we're getting into the investors. So angels, which are very early stage investors, if you aren't familiar with the term, look it up, because if you're an early stage company, they're going to be much more appropriate than venture capitalists. And these two men represent angel groups. So you can be an individual angel, or you can be part of an angel group if you want to invest in early stage companies. And Darren Cook is a long-term member and leader in Life Science Angels, which is a very well-known group that has connections throughout the United States, but is based here in Silicon Valley. So he will speak from his perspective. Ranjan Nag has a very interesting, different background. He's director of the MIT Alumni Angels here in Northern California. He also is an investor himself. He also has an incubator himself. He also does startups. He does some of everything, and he's extremely knowledgeable. And you can be in front of the MIT Alumni Angels without having any MIT connection. So it's only to be a member of the angel group that you need to have an MIT connection. So you will learn a very different style of angel investing from Ranjan. And then venture capital, which is everyone's dream. So we have two VCs to speak to you. Jorge Candy is general partner at Andreessen Horowitz. Andreessen is a famed Silicon Valley venture capitalist. They are one of the most quoted VCs when you ask around about who is the top of the investing tier. And I'm very pleased that Jorge is going to be joining us this time. Lian Chen is a partner in the Collin Group, which has a very different kind of business model. The Collin Group likes to start companies themselves. So you as an inventor might go to them and say, hey, I want to build a company. And they might say, well, that's very interesting. Let us help you. We have a group of people who can build that for you, but you, of course, will be part of this. So let us work together in that way. And so he will describe that model, which is a different one and one to think about. And then to get a bit of the flip side, we have a talk by Ryan Howard, who's a serial entrepreneur who has seen venture capital from the other side. He's been the entrepreneur and brought in venture capital investment. And there are many ways in which you can find venture capital sort of heavy-handed as they invest in you and implement some of the legal clauses they're able to. And Ryan gives you a very good overview of what those things are and how to protect yourself in the beginning of the VC relationship. It's always a great talk. I've had people say it's the best talk of the entire class. So you wouldn't want to miss Ryan. And then we have some entrepreneurs who are going to be speaking. Kevin Parker is the founder and CEO of Cartography Bio, a fairly new biotech. He went straight from his Stanford PhD to CEO of this company, and he raised $57 million in Series A, which is the first venture capital investment series. So very successful. He's kept his job, which is not always for certain if you raise significant venture capital, but they obviously like him. And so he is going to be telling his story about how he went directly from science into a major company, what has become a major company. And a second one that we've invited, who's going to be coming, is Sri Kasuri, who is the CEO, co-founder of acclaimed Bio. And Sri's interesting because he is UCLA faculty, and somehow he managed to keep his academic position and become an entrepreneur. He has now raised an $80 million Series B. That's the second venture capital series. And he put together a collaboration with Bristol Myers Squibb. So he's on the fast track to success with his company. And he's got a very different kind of pathway than Kevin, and he'll describe his story. Okay, in addition, we have some sector discussion groups. So as you know, we're all in very different businesses depending on what our interest is in life sciences and healthcare. If you're a medical device person, you don't have much in common with a diagnostics person. If you're therapeutics, you may be doing something in digital health as well these days. But you have a very distinct pathway as well. So the idea is, let's break down the big classes, put people with similar interests together in a small group, put some mentors in who are going to lead the discussion, and let them find out more about how this information applies directly to their sector. And these are some of the kinds of people who are mentors. They're serial entrepreneurs, early stage CEOs, investors, business development executives, and consultants. I think also some attorneys are in there. So these happen about once a month and are a great opportunity to get to know your cohort, as well as to get some more specific information. And then the last small group is Entrepreneurial War Stories. It's also a discussion group. Brian Feth, who's been leading this group since we started, brings in people he knows who are entrepreneurs, who also tell their stories and just are very candid about what's worked well and what hasn't for them. All right, before I go to the alumni network, let me just pause here and see who's got questions. There must be some questions by now. I could call on somebody like Anil, who's been in this class 4 times already. Okay, Anil. What question would you have if you were sitting out there and listening to this?
So Stephanie, I'm excited to listen to Ryan Howard. I'm curious, what are some of the things that he is bringing to this discussion, because he has a completely different set of pointers that are very exciting, but for this group, they may be a little different than what they are typically expecting from your class.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that. Right. Ryan has tremendous information that you don't get other places, because few people are willing to speak so candidly about the downsides of venture capital investment. And as he has told me just recently and has repeated, you know, he has nothing to lose. He's not going to look for venture capital again. He's doing his own thing and so on. So he wants to help others not make the same mistakes he did years ago when he was a first-time entrepreneur. So, yeah, thanks for bringing that out. Let's see, Hiro, you were in cohort 1. Do you want to make any comments about what you're seeing now? Is it very different? Can you unmute, Hiro?
Okay. So after hearing your presentation, I would like to take part in the class again.
Yeah,
tell
all
the truth.
right.
Okay.
Why do you want to do it again, Hiro?
Okay. I'm thinking about it. Yeah, now. Yeah.
Excellent.
Very,
Okay.
very attractive.
Well, thank you. I think when we did cohort 1, we weren't quite so well organized, but it's better these days. Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Okay, Yudara, I see you here. Can you say something about what the experience was for you?
Hi guys. Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. I don't have any other words than amazing. I think you can learn a lot of things from books, internet, and people, but hearing from people who have done it, connecting that feelings to your feelings and what you're going through is one of the most important things I felt. I was in the academia as a clinical instructor, associate professor, and a physician. And then to start that startup journey, I had a lot of doubts. But to me, the biggest part was hearing from the people who have done before, connecting to them, having that same thought process, having that same feeling. And on top of it, Stephanie always have amazing speakers who have done this not once, multiple times. So I think to me, that was the biggest thing.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful. I'm going to just rush through the last few slides so you see it all, and then let Juan Pablo and Sashi speak a bit about what their views are. So this is an international network now. We've been on 6 continents and 27 countries. We have a very active alumni group of over 400, and we've been doing virtual meetings and a couple of in-person meetings since COVID was over. So very pleased to have actually met some people. This was a get-together. We had the first in-person get-together during JP Morgan Healthcare Week this January. It's a very huge life science healthcare conference that occurs in San Francisco. And we did this at UCSF. So people were pleased to come see UCSF and also to meet each other. We had Jing Bao from Shanghai in the front next to me, and then some people from Canada and the Netherlands, and of course a lot of people from the United States who, but not from our part of the United States. So it was really great. A slightly smaller gathering was a couple of weeks ago during the Bio conference, a big international conference. We had an alumni dinner. There's Sashi, who you're going to meet in a couple of minutes, and Jing, and the other woman is a resident at Mass General, who is a UCSF grad and an alum, so also doing a startup. So that was just really great to get together. And then when I'm on the road, I try to meet alumni wherever they are. So Stefano Gay and I got together in Rome, really delightful dinner, and got to find out a lot about his venture studio. Hiro, we're on the road from UCSF, but across the bay, and it was a pleasure to actually have some good discussion with Hiro, who's a visiting fellow from Kanazawa University at UCSF, but we met at UC Berkeley. And then Mirko Sadi was a student, I think, in cohort 1. He is at Institut Pasteur in Paris, and so we had a coffee when I was in Paris. So we try to stay in contact with people and to give you a chance to interact as well. A few comments from some of the past cohorts. Sravan now he's changed companies, but he was with a mid-sized biotech, life-changing experience. Cecilia Sui is from Hong Kong, and she runs part of the ecosystem there. She thanked us for organizing the class, and she would get up in the middle of the night to attend the sessions that were at an inconvenient time for Asia. But she didn't want to miss anything actually being there, so she would come all the time. Aaron Su, some of you from Singapore perhaps know him. He's with A-Star, which is like the NIH of Singapore, I understand. He was great. He was actually one of the people who did get up in the middle of the night to attend all the classes live, and speaks about the many benefits. And Donald O'Gorman at the time from the National Institute of Cellular Biology and now co-founder of a startup, had high hopes for the alumni over the future. 94% of the last cohort would recommend this class. The few who didn't said they just never had time to get to it, so they didn't know, but we just get rave reviews all the time. And so why take this entrepreneurship class? Some of the reasons are you're either working on a startup, thinking of it, maybe you want to benchmark on how we do things here in Silicon Valley, want to pick up on this unique culture that we have, trying to figure out if you should do a startup personally, if you're in a different world, maybe just have an interest in early stage ventures as an investor, as a corporate executive, as pharmaceutical company, and you want to join a network. So I think I'm going to stop here with, these are our partners, and I'm going to, people always want to know this. We start on October 4th. The deadline to apply September 6th. It's a 10-week class. It's 2 hours a week for the lectures. And then if you want to come to small groups and office hours, it's more time. That's up to you. The lectures are all online, and we have small groups and we have office hours. They're both live and recorded, 50% targeted to Europe, 50% to Asia. But if you're not able to attend the 50% that is at an inconvenient time, you can watch the video. There is no application required, and the tuition is very nominal, $1,500 compared to Berkeley, Stanford, Harvard, MIT, and everything else you're going to see out there. So with that, I would like to introduce Sashi. Let's have you come up first and talk a bit about who you are and what you took away from the class and why you've been interested in getting SG Innovate more involved. Sashi.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks a lot. So hello to everybody. I was in cohort 4. My background is academic neuroscience and then drug discovery in GSK. And then I led an academic drug discovery unit in the second largest university in Singapore, NTU. I joined SG Innovate, and really that was when I asked to attend this course, because I felt that SG Innovate's mission was to really look at how we can bolster entrepreneurship. So I wanted to make sure that really the course would be fit for purpose for entrepreneurs that are based in Singapore. And I was in SG Innovate for a year, and then I've now moved to Wisconsin, where my role is really to look at how we can help the academics in Marquette University look at how to commercialize their kind of inventions. So as you can see, it's a kind of a fit on all purposes. The one thing that I really appreciated was, and you'll hear this throughout the course, is network. It's all about building that network within the States, building that network across the world as well. You can tap in and say, hey, I need some help here. Can you advise me? Obviously, working with a lot of academics, they don't have the know-how sometimes, so you might need to be that person. After the course, you will have that knowledge. And I guess it was really, really good to be able to dial into some stuff. Obviously, there's a 15-hour difference between San Francisco and Singapore, but recordings, being able to access it. Inda does an amazing job with all of the admins. Stephanie does an amazing job with getting these star speakers. So it's about knowledge, network, and the accessibility. And I don't want to go on for too long, but yeah, I'll leave someone else to give more comments.
And that was great. That was very helpful. Thank you, Sashi. And we appreciate your involvement. It was great to sit down with you and your colleagues in Boston and talk about how we can do more together.
I definitely think we should do more together. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, JP, can you come to the stage and tell people who you are and what you're doing?
Yeah, thank you, Steph. Hi to all. I just want to summarize what has been my experience in Stephanie's course as 3 words: mindset, network, knowledge. And in that order, and it's very similar to the 3 words Stephanie uses to describe the course: content, culture, network. And I'm an academic in the National University of Mexico. My PhD studies were focused on a peptide discovery, and at some point we figured out that this could be a promising therapeutic, and from then we didn't have any idea of what to do next. At first we thought about selling the technology, but nobody wants that. And then I started the course, and now I have started the company in the US, and I'm in Indie Bio Accelerator accepted, and I'm still learning. So this is a long learning curve. So my recommendation is to start today. If you're in academia outside the entrepreneurship world, start today, because it's gonna be a long way. The most valuable thing to me is the mindset change. As academic, it's very difficult to change your mind from science and medicine and technical aspects into the business, innovation, entrepreneurship. So that start with the program with Stephanie, and now I am now still changing this mindset. This is difficult. About the knowledge that I have acquired, the content, it's great. You get so much feedback about your idea of your business, information about the IP, which is very complicated, the value of your proposition, the market, the business model, pitching, regulation, if FDA. Also, it is for all the stages. No, at the time I take the course, I was very early. that helped me change my mindset. But I want to take this course again, because right now I want to see, the more advanced, the same classes, the same courses that we take, but myself, I'm ahead. So I will see this with a different perspective. What else? I wrote here. Something I like the most is of course the lectures are good, but the section forums, where there are small groups focused on therapeutics or diagnostics, they are great, because then you can talk to the people and make it very personal, and they give you excellent feedback, the people that are lead the section forums. Also, the team building exercises are great, don't miss them. And the startup war stories are also great. They are like the dirty part of the entrepreneurship world, and that is great. Also, Steph, you give some office hours, and they are great. Don't disappoint.
Can't hear you.
Also, the thing that the virtual the course is virtual is great for all of us which are not in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the time is great, 2 hours per week. But also with all the other activities, maybe you will do 4 hours each week, and it's gonna be good. So I totally recommend it. You won't regret if you enroll and you assist to every lecture, to every class, to every startup war stories, and to every section forum. You will be receiving a lot that you need.
So thank you, JP. That I think of this class having started to give you the window into the resources around Silicon Valley, and you tapped into them, and you're on your way from a small city, medium city in Mexico that no one's ever heard of. All of a sudden you're connected to our world, and it's been huge. You're now in the top accelerator. You have a top Silicon Valley attorney who's giving you service pro bono. You know, you have so much to learn, but you know, you're no longer in this lovely city that you live in. You're not sort of isolated there without an ecosystem around you. So we're happy to have you here in the Valley. I just wanted to address, there are a few questions in the chat from earlier. Sarah, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. I was just, when people were talking about having taken the course multiple times, I was just curious kind of what brought them back to it. And some people answered me on the chat, and of course, hearing from Sashi and Juan Pablo was very helpful too, to get a sense of kind of the value of coming back and listening to different speakers. So I think my question is answered, but if anyone has other thoughts on why they've returned, please feel free to let me know.
Did Anil weigh in? He's my all-time champion of 4 times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay. Yeah, he's really become part of the course community family because he just has so much perspective. Fiona, are you there? You want to ask your question?
Hi, I'm here. Would like to find out if you have some efforts outside of the US. So I noticed that your topics are very US focused. So, but I noticed that your tagline is advancing healthcare worldwide. So I just wanted to know, what your alumni have been doing outside of the US. Are there some, mentors and network that you have outside of the US that, for example, in our part of the world in Asia? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Let me see, sort of a multi-part question. Well, first of all, that tagline is UCSF's, not mine. And UCSF truly has global health and collaborations around the world for science, which is a wonderful thing. We intentionally made this a US-centric course because we felt like we had a lot to teach, and that this perspective was going to be useful no matter where you are in the world. Because we're, a more advanced ecosystem than many other places, and many other places also model on what we've done. For instance, the regulatory agencies in other countries are often modeled on FDA. So we have intentionally not tried to teach, well, here's how it is in Asia, and here's how it is in Europe, and so on, because we're not experts on that, but we are experts on the US. Our alumni are from 27 countries, and the hope is when they go back home, they can take these learnings from the course and promulgate them in their ecosystems, in their networks, so that they can have impact beyond just those of us who are actually on the screen at the moment. So I hope that answered you. Who else has a question? Sandra wants to know how to get the recording. Inder will send it around. Yes, he's already said that. Any questions about content, the speakers, how you're going to manage doing this when you have a full-time job, or anything else?
Stephanie, someone who had logged off had sent me a question via email saying, do you need an idea or some sort of startup idea before joining the course, or can you just join to learn? So I thought that might be a question.
Sure, great, thank you. Yeah, you don't have to have an idea at all. You don't even have to be certain you want to be an entrepreneur. You can just come and learn what you can and absorb what you can. And at the end of it, you may say, wow, this is the best thing I've ever heard, and I want in. Or you might say, oh, no, thanks. I'm so glad I just took a 10-week course, and now I can put this off to the side and not worry about doing a startup because it's really not for me. So this is really about self-exploration as well as learning what it takes to start a company. I guess they're both connected. And so idea not required. If you have an idea, great, that may help frame some of your questions. But you don't have to have an idea. And I do see a question, Rajiv. Do you want to ask it? Rajiv, I see you there. Can you unmute? Just ask your question out loud.
Yeah, hi Stephanie, how are you? Hi there.
I'm good.
No, I was just asking, maybe it's a rhetorical question. On what I think is an eternal entrepreneurship question is, can it really be taught? Is it in your
Yeah.
genes or?
Yeah. Yeah, it is the eternal question. And Rajiv, remind me where are you located right now?
I'm technically supposed to be in California, but I'm in DC right now.
Oh, okay, you're here in the state. So what can be taught? You know, I'm a believer that you cannot teach someone the entrepreneurial personality. That's something you either have or you don't have. Some people are born to be independent, to go do their own thing. They really hate sitting in a big company and being told what to do by a bureaucracy and all the things that go along with working for somebody else. They have an entrepreneurial personality. And you either, as I said, you either have it or you don't. It doesn't mean, by the way, you can't join a startup. You just probably shouldn't be the CEO of it. So what can you teach? Well, you can teach the components of entrepreneurship. You can teach what it takes to do a startup. You can give people a sense of the culture around doing one and the experience and the ups and downs and the challenges. All those things are teachable. But I don't think you can teach people to want to be more independent or live with be very good at living with ambiguity or chafing at being restricted to not do things and so on. So that's my point of view on it. Does that make sense? Yes, no?
Yeah, it does. It takes a certain amount. Actually, a certain amount is the wrong word. It takes an enormous amount of grit, and just sheer perseverance. And you got it. If you're married, you better have your family behind you. Otherwise, it's not going to get very far.
Yeah, or you won't have a family at the end of it, Paul. Yeah. Sashi, you have a question.
Yeah, I guess this was more a comment. Right, probably before the course starts, you'll be asked to do this personality test, which was really quite excellent exercise. I found out very quickly that in a last life I was an acting CEO, and I thoroughly did not enjoy that experience. I'm probably more a COO or a CSO, and that whole personality test actually was really, really useful to kind of give you some insight into where you want to be on that kind of entrepreneurial scale. So I would advise everyone, if you do enroll for the course, to do that and take some time and do it properly, because it gives you a lot of insight into your personality that you might not actually realize straight up.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's great. Ruini, you want to ask your question? Ruini, still there?
Hi, can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yeah.
I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. So I was wondering, how do you maintain the alumni community after company, especially someone who's not based in the US?
I'm sorry, I missed the very beginning of that. For someone who's not based in the US, you're in Australia, I get that. What was the rest of it?
How do you maintain the alumni community? Because I don't
great.
know. But do you have
well, nobody's based in the US, but I mean, that's not true. A lot of people aren't. So we do gatherings on Zoom from time to time. So we'll do something like this, then we'll have breakouts, and then you get to chat with maybe 4 other people in your breakout room, and then we switch it up and you get 4 different people. And so I know that it's worked well for people, that, it's very interactive and people make connections. So that's been the primary way we've done it. We also sometimes have special lectures just for people who are either in the course or maybe going to take it. And we've got one of those coming up. So that's another way you can connect. And we always have a chat afterwards. So those are some of the ways that we do it. Where are you in Australia?
in Melbourne?
I'm going to be there in a few months, so look me up. Oh. Yeah, I hope to see you. Sandra, do you want to ask your question? And please go on video when you do. Hi. Can't hear you though.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, like I'm on my phone, laptop, like it's dying right now. So I'm a student. I'm a college student, second year undergrad at NYU, and I do want to know what are some of the skills that I need to like cultivate right now, because you mentioned like, oh, you could teach people skills, but you couldn't like teach people some of the virtues and kind of like personality. So I'm curious about like I have kind of I'm curious about like what are some of the skills that you think me as a second year sophomore at college need to cultivate right now in order to better prepare myself in the real life, I guess.
Wow. Are you asking in general or vis-a-vis entrepreneurship?
Oh yeah, specific to entrepreneurship, because
okay.
I'm creating my own startup right now. So yeah.
Okay, well, if you can learn how to assess an opportunity, that's huge, because so many entrepreneurs make the mistake that they don't do that. And they just go out and do something that they've imagined and say, well, you know, it's great science, so everyone's going to want it, so I don't need to do anything else. And that's just not true. There's so many other elements besides the science that enter into a successful startup. So if you take away just that one thing from the class, that would be huge and will keep you from making a lot of mistakes going forward. So I could go on for hours about all the great stuff you'll learn, but that take that one as a good starting place.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Let's see. I think I saw Einar, my colleague, with her hand up. Is that true, Einar?
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Stephanie. I'm honored to be called your colleague. So thank you very much. I'm an academician, but I've been involved in starting several companies and also in advising. And I guess what I would say is I'm excited to take this class because I think the education of an entrepreneur is lifelong learning. We evolve, but the field continues to evolve. So I think it's a great opportunity to be exposed to this. So thank you, Stephanie. And want to take a quick cheeky opportunity to introduce you to my colleague in Melbourne, Narasha Parostam, who you'll see here, and they're waiting for you at MCRI when you come down to do the Global Entrepreneurship Conference down there.
Oh,
so just wanted to let you know.
Thank you, Einar. Thank
you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to come. For those of you who don't know, there's a Global Entrepreneurship Congress happening in Melbourne in September, where entrepreneurs literally from around the world will be congregating, and I will be on a panel there, and very excited about going to Australia for the first time and participating in this global meeting. So yeah.
It is an exciting innovation ecosystem over there. So I'm really happy to introduce you to more people, but Narasha is the Director of Innovation at MCRI. And so that'll be a great starting point.
Super.
And now you know
so
Rumi as well. Take care.
Yes, I do. I was just going to put it. Yeah, it's a lovely.
Okay, great. I'm getting more and more contacts. I love it. Networking, which is what I teach. So, okay, we're just at the hour. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks.
Go ahead.
Just getting back to the course, what is the balance between, it sounds like, you know, there's excellent speakers and we'll hear kind of broadly about big topics and things to think about. Just wondering what the balance is between kind of these bigger picture topics and learnings and a little bit more of the like nitty gritty logistics, kind of how to get started with stuff, if that's part of the course at all.
Well, it's not too much big picture and a lot of nitty gritty. So intentionally, it's a how to do it kind of class, not you know, you need to learn what strategy is. And, you know, I've had all those classes. That's not what we do here. What we do is, okay, you have an idea. Here are the things you need to do to check it out. You know, now go do that next week and see what you learn. Or, you know, you don't have your IP protected yet and you think you're going to go speak at a conference. Well, don't do that. Okay, make sure you file something first and so on. So it's very pragmatic.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I think I misunderstood that. So that's very helpful to get.
Well, I'm glad you asked the question because if you misunderstood, probably other people did. So.
I was on the bus and, you know, the cell connection in and out, but thank you.
Yeah. And for the rest of you, Sarah's a UCSF faculty member, and we and I had a chance to chat a week or so ago. So nice to see you here. I encourage you to come.
Thank you. It's been super helpful. Thanks.
And we're always happy to have our faculty join. Okay, any other questions? I will stick around for a few minutes afterwards if anyone just wants to informally chat. I want to thank Sashi and JP for coming and giving us their perspectives on the class. You know, I really am excited to, when I see our alumni progress, like specifically in Juan Pablo's case, where he's, you know, just really in a very different place than he was a year ago. And of course, Sashi, you've moved over here, so now you're in a completely different place as well. Rajiv, did you have a question?
No, it's not a question, it's more a comment. I was going to answer a question that Sandra asked earlier. The two words that I learned recently earlier this year that kind of I think encompasses what entrepreneurship is all about. I mean, we do it all the time. It's subconscious. We struggle through various peaks and troughs. But I think the two words that I was taught earlier this year was called learn to be anti-fragile, or what they call anti-fragility. And I think that really, I mean, it really encompasses exactly what an entrepreneur needs to face in terms of coming out from the start to a position of some exit or a success, or however the success is defined. It's a concept worth thinking about and learning about.
Yeah, Rajiv, are you an entrepreneur?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
I am. I've had three biotechs. One went under, one was sideways, and one did really well. We sold an asset to got into J Labs, sold an asset, and then the asset was acquired by Johnson & Johnson.
Oh, wonderful!
So that was
Congratulations. Yeah, that's a great success. That's great. Well, come join us. I'm sure you can lead a lot of the discussion with your experience.
I'm looking forward to it, because I think you see what you're doing is a lot more life science focused than many of the others that one of which I've attended in the past. But no, there are phenomenal learnings from both. No doubt about it.
Yeah. No, it's great. For anyone who sent me a message in the chat, it will disappear after this, so please send it to my email, Narisha specifically, and I will call the big get together over. Thank you for coming. Stick around. I hope you join the class, sign up. You'll be invited to other things that are happening before we start. The start is not very far away, and we're looking forward to having a really great cohort 5 here. So again, stay in touch and thank you.